Hey guys, it's Coach Siegel. I just wanted to take a minute to go over some Lacrosse 101 basics with you to help our new players get ready for the season. So I'll start with apologizing for my art lack of abilities. I realize that real field is much more congruent and symmetric than this, so work with me on that. This is our basic field setup. So we have our roughly football-sized field here divided into thirds. For the purpose of this, we're going to be the blue team. So this is the side of the field that we are shooting on, our offensive zone. This is the midfield, and this is our defensive zone. Starting in the midfield, you have your center circle there. That's where the draw takes place. There's a draw to start both halves of the game, and then there's a draw after every goal. The draw involves the three midfielders from each team. So you have one midfielder from each team meeting here at the X in the middle. They're going to take the draw, which we'll talk about in practice, and then them, as well as the other two midfielders for each team, are going to fight for the ball. Once the ball has been established in possession by one team or the other, the ref will give the signal by winding their hand, and then at that point, everybody is allowed to come into the midfield. The midfield is the only part of the field that every player is allowed into. It is a shared part of the field. So at any point, anybody can go into the midfield. Let's say we win the draw. So we are going this way towards me into our offensive zone. You can see waiting on the other side of this line here is 4 attacks, which is what the A stands for. Those are our offensive players, and 4 defenders for the other team. Likewise, if they were to win the ball, their attacks are waiting here, and our defenders are waiting there as well. When they cross over this line is called the restraining line. The restraining line does exactly that. It holds people back. So once they cross this line, only 7 players from either team are allowed into either the offensive or defensive zone. Typically, that's going to be our 4 attack and our 3 midfield. Would be our 7 on offense. And then if we're on defense, our 4 defenders and our 3 midfield would be our 7 back here. So we would have the midfield playing both offense and defense, the attack and the defense typically staying on their side. Important note here, big rule with an offsides penalty is that our attack can't cross into this defensive zone. Our defense can't cross into this offensive zone. Anybody's good in the midfield, but otherwise we don't want to cross those lines unless we're switching positions with people. Let's see. Just explaining the field a little bit, and then I'll talk a little bit about offense and defense. So down here you see our setup. We have the goal here in the middle, the little triangle. The goal is inside of a crease. The crease is a circle that only the goalie is allowed in. In girls lacrosse, only the goalie can go in there. Offense, defense is not allowed to run in the crease. Your stick is not allowed to go in the crease. If you take a shot and it goes in, but on your follow through, your stick crosses that imaginary line, the goal is no good. So we're staying out of there all the time. This smaller fan is our 8-meter fan. That is another protected area on the field. I'll talk about what that means in a minute. And then our larger 12-meter fan, which is all the critical scoring area. You'll also notice that the goals do not go to the end of the field. We do have playable space behind the goal. We refer to that area as X. So if we're talking about let's get the ball to X, we're talking about getting back behind the goal. Same setup on the other side of the field, obviously for the other team. Down here, we have where our benches would be, and then we have the sub box. The sub box is right in the middle of the field. In girls lacrosse, you can substitute in live time, meaning it doesn't have to be a whistle or a timeout. If we want to sub out this midfielder here, we're going to put our player in the sub box. This girl is going to sprint off the field, and as soon as she enters the sub box, our girl can then run onto the field. So we can only sub in and out of the game through the sub box. You can't run off over here, or over there, or anywhere else. And that's the basic setup of the field. So if we were to get the ball and come down here on offense, typically we want to set up our 7 players nice and big. So let's say we have 2 of them back here behind the cage, 2 out on wings, 2 high wings, and 1 on top. This is going to be our typical base formation, right? 7 players, nice and spread out, nice and big. That would put their defenders, inside. They're going to want to stay inside of their players. You'll notice I'm keeping these ones pretty far away because we don't usually guard back behind the goal because you can't get hurt back there. So our defense kind of sets up in a similar type of shell but on the inside of the offense. And then from there, I'm not going to get into the offensive schemes and all that right now, but typically from there, you're trying to obviously send cutters, make opportunities, create opportunities through picks, through ball movement, through beating your girl one-on-one to get to goal and get off a shot. Couple of rules I did want to talk about quickly that are really important in terms of understanding the way we set up and play the game are 3 seconds and shooting space. So 3 seconds, what that means is this area here, the 8 meter, defenders are not allowed to go in there unless they're within a stick's length, meaning they can reach their stick out and touch an offensive player. If a defender is camped out in the middle here and they're not by an offensive player and the ref determines that they're there for 3 seconds or more, that has a 3-second penalty. And that penalty will send their girl back, and if we're inside their critical scoring zone, can get us a penalty shot, which is great for us. We want as many penalty shots as possible. We also want to avoid them on defense, so we need to know these penalties. So that's why we like our offense to get big. Because if our offense gets big, it forces the defense to get big. If we have an offensive player sit right here, then that allows the defense to sit right there too, which clogs up the middle, which reduces our ability to get the ball inside and create space. So we always want to be nice and big on offense. The other penalty that we get called for a lot, everyone gets called for a lot, is shooting space. Shooting space means that you are standing in a position that if a person were to shoot the ball at the goal, it might hit you. That is against the rules. It's a player safety rule. Most of the rules in girls lacrosse deal with safety. So if this girl right here has the ball and her player is not within a stick's length of her, but blocking her path like that, that is shooting space. This player cannot shoot the ball because she would hurt this girl, so she just holds it. The ref will call shooting space on that girl, pull her out, and we would get a penalty shot. That's a pretty simplistic explanation. It can also be if, let's say this girl is guarding her, and our girl is able to get around her, right? She makes a move and gets by her, and there she goes. She's heading to goal. Defense is going to want to do what's called a slide. A slide means I'm going to leave my girl and go help on yours because that's where the need is, right? So the next person over, maybe this girl is going to slide in, or this girl is going to slide in to try to help. Those are okay. This slide is not. So this little girl runs in and comes like this. The problem there, same thing, shooting space. She's now run and put herself into a position where if our girl were to shoot, it would hit her, making that a penalty on her because it's a dangerous situation. So those are 2 big penalties that we want to make sure that we know and we understand. The other, conceptual things we want to understand is a clear and a ride. So if we're back here on defense and we have our 7 defenders, and our goalie gets the ball, right? Forget these guys. Our goalie gets the ball. We want to clear the ball out, which means that we need to get the ball out of our defensive zone and down to offense as quickly as we can. So to do so, we're going to practice, different types of clear plays, where we will work on getting our defenders turning into offensive-minded players, meaning they want the ball and they want to help transition the ball down the field as quickly as possible. Typically when we clear, we want to clear to the outside of the field, not throw the ball down the middle and cause potential turnovers. So we're going to have players kind of cutting like that on either side. Our goalies are going to try to hit these girls with passes, get the ball down either to a midfielder or to a tax, because remember the tax can come all the way up to this line to help out and get the ball out of here. Likewise, when the other team is trying to clear, our offensive players are now going to turn into defensive players, and they're going to try to get the ball back for us. So if this was their goalie, our girls who were playing offense are now going to say, okay, they got the ball, we need to get it back. And we're going to pressure them to try to cause a turnover, and that's called the ride. So in the ride, our offensive players become defensive players. I feel that the midfielders are also applying pressure and trying to cause turnovers. There's a lot more, obviously. There's a lot more rules. There's a lot more schematic stuff that we want to talk about. But hopefully this gives you a little bit of at least a starting point to help you get more comfortable with girls lacrosse. If you have questions, email me, ask me at practice. Hopefully this helps a little bit. And that's it.